What you doing? I'm your Otakutainment theacstories with this Otakutainment review. So I'm talking about ContRact Volume 2 by Brandon Nowakowski, with cover art by Jimmy O, cover design by Julio Vasquez. It was published by Vic's Lab in March 25th, 2025, with the physical copy coming out later in the year in June. In total, it is 239 pages with 19 chapters. Before I get into the nitty-gritty of going through what happens throughout this book, I'll give you the more spoiler-free review of my thoughts on it. Now, firstly, there's nothing really wrong or bad about this book. It's just overall kind of lackluster, I guess to say. It is an interesting and unique story idea that I have not really seen. There's these beings, these other people, other creatures, who knows what they really are, I guess. It doesn't get into the technical of them. They do seem just like people from other realms, depending on what you consider people. And they're making contracts with other humans on what we would see as a typical Earth. Alright, I went through all of Volume 1. That gets more into the nitty-gritty of this in a different review. So I'm going to focus mainly on what happens in the second volume without having to backtrack to say what Volume 1 already covered. But yeah, this story idea is brought through more through this Volume 2. Overall, it seems like it wants to flesh out this world and some characters, and you just get that hint of it every now and then. But it seems like it just wants to fall back on powering up Issa. We have friends, we have rivals turn compatriots, we have other enemies, and you get just enough of them to be like, oh, there could be character growth here, but let's just focus on Issa instead. So there is potential for other characters. I'm looking forward to the other characters. I'm looking forward to the world or the other realm. But there's just so much focus on Issa. And yes, Issa, Zuri, they're the main characters. But it doesn't have to be the only characters. And we do get some. But then it's like, randomly here, okay, let's go back to Issa. It's like, are we done yet? Let's get back to Issa. Okay. And along with that, we hardly get any descriptions of anything. This is a big critique I had for Volume 1. It's maybe somewhat better, but we even go to another realm in this volume, and it's still just so minimal. And the excuse is just kind of like, oh, well, it's so hard to comprehend. Don't do the Cthulhu bullshit. Look, you can still try. Like, to do whatever. To give me some kind of description. The only descriptions we really get is from fight scenes. And, I mean, there's details with those, but they're also short. Which is okay. You don't have to drag out fight scenes. I'm actually okay with this part. But you could describe other stuff besides fights. I know fights are cool, and that seems to be the only thing people care about anymore. But, okay, sure. It doesn't help that there are no illustrations besides the cover. Yeah, I know this is an original English light novel. Not all of them have illustrations because art's expensive, understandably. But I don't know what anything looks like. I will say, another kind of positive note, is the story does not go how I would predict. Honestly, I thought this whole first part, because I said it was in 3 parts. There's the initial conflict with these enforcers and Zuri kind of getting taken. Then there's the second realm, and then there's coming back and wrapping up. And I didn't expect all of that in one book. That is almost 3 to 2 books worth of stuff just crammed into this like a little over 200 pages book. I thought it would be spread out more, but it also, goes against my expectations, which is good. I don't want to be able to predict what's going to happen. It just didn't seem to flow very well. And it seems like that first part, the whole initial reason there was going to be conflict, is kind of just gone and moved on to, let's guess it, Issa and getting more stuff to Issa. Forget about the rest of the characters. Okay. And there's just no time given for any of this. It's so crammed in there. I don't know what you expect to grow, having growth, having exploration of the world. And I think that's why it still just goes back to, well, we can't focus too much on other characters. We'll give them a moment. And then Issa. Okay, cool. But it's just There's no flow. The chapters are very short and choppy. Most of them are around 11 pages or something like that. And some of them could have been combined. Some of them, just the way they start out, are just weird. There's a couple chapters like, I don't know why you're doing this. I'll get to that in my more detailed. But it's just like, this was obviously put out as chapters, as people to consume chapter by chapter. I don't know the exact release or how it was, but it definitely feels like it was written each chapter individually, which is very manga-like. But when it's compiled into a book like this, it makes no sense sometimes. Two very specific examples. And the rest is just choppy. You're not taking any time to do what makes a book a book. Maybe individually these chapters are okay, but when it's compiled, it needs to be re-edited into something more cohesive, and this just isn't it. And then the last thing, kind of on this, is I like the one-word chapters. It had a theme going on, and then it stopped. I don't know why. And that's just a little weird nitpick thing for me. I was like, oh, okay, I like this, and now you're not doing it anymore. So overall, I like what is there. I just don't think there is enough there for me to like it a lot. There wasn't anything making me want to go to the next chapter. They're so short. And yeah, I'm still like, okay. I like the first part. I like what was getting set up. And even though I like that my expectations are, being distracted at most, I also like it makes no sense really. And then there's this big thing that is talked about, kind of is ran into a lot more in this, which is like there's different versions of other people. It's almost like a multiverse kind of thing, different realms where there's seems to be different versions of characters in each different realm. That's cool. Like, I can see it. It's just makes no sense. But I also kind of like how it's not just straight up, oh, well, let's really get into it. And it's kind of a conflicting thing that I'm trying to wrap my head around. But there's not enough time given to it. And it's really like the characters just accept it too easily, which means we have to accept it too easily without really understanding what's going on. So that's the kind of spoiler-free part of it. I'm going to go not chapter by chapter, but by May of what happens throughout this and give my thoughts on it every now and then. So get ready for some spoilers if you haven't read the second volume yet. So to start off with, we get a quick summary of what happened, and then Issa communicating to Zuri through bloodsucking. And it's like, oh, that's an interesting thing. And then there's this whole first part is really just training and preparing, which I'm okay with, because I thought all this training and preparing was going to set us up for a different story. But there's, Vermis trains Rao, while talking about Jensen and Fiona. Elsie's working with Metal and thinking about Issa. There's two enforcers, the Major and Casanova, who eventually learns name is Rose. They're getting ready for the mission to come get or look for Jensen, right? And then we're moving on. We see Max hiring Issa to be a workout buddy, because Issa's whole thing for now is being like an odd job type of person, and trying to convince Issa to come work for Max for real. But then Zuri's talking to Casanova about Vermis, because Casanova, this is what I'm going to say, the enforcer, talking about Vermis and Casimir. Later, Merger talks to Casanova about Casimir. There's just a lot of investigating and not super action heavy. That's fine. And we're seeing a little bit of personality from Casanova. I would think the strongest point of this, character-wise, actually is Casanova or Rose, right? Anderson, who is we'll get to that. I'm not going to be jumping around too much, but so I don't mix things up too much. Now, Casanova and Major or Ditch go to Rao, talk to Vermis, and there's a lot names get interchanged a bit depending on who's talking, which shows like different relationships between characters, sure. But then Major, I don't assume I'm saying these names right, goes to Fiona's Don't know how that's found. And then there's questions while Jinsen escapes through the window. And there's just, I gotta say, and this is why I become disappointed later, this first part actually is the most interesting. About what's going to happen with Jinsen and all this stuff. Casanova and Mayor go over their suspicions while Issa and Zuri get into some tension over Max's job offer. But then Issa runs into Casanova. And this is where we realize Casanova looks like the original punk from when all this started, which can be a significant part. I mean, if you just look on the title of this, I mean, we get to see what Casanova at least actually looks like, which means I'm assuming we get to see what the human one also got to look like. And Issa is mad, punches Casanova, and Zuri shows up to try to calm things, but apparently enforcers have no actual authority over the signers. It seems to be more just the contractors. Issa easily beats up Casanova, who's very cocky and with the ghoul transformation. But Zuri ends up stopping this. Issa loses energy. And then Jinsen takes Issa to Elsie's workshop. Jinsen somehow knew an alternate universe Elsie, which I have some theories about this that are kind of weird, but I'll get to that in a moment. And then enforcers question Zuri about Issa's location, who truthfully doesn't know. And then Issa is recommended to work with Max. So they do, plus Casimir. So this is just more prepping, really. Issa's working on focusing Chi with Casimir, and then ask Elsie for advice on seeing Chi, which I think this may be the last time Elsie's whole sight thing is used or it matters for the rest of this volume, because I don't remember it being mentioned again. So kind of that it goes back. A lot of other characters are kind of forgotten about, while Issa gets most of the development. A little just unbalanced development. So they try to go get Zuri back, but Zuri made an informal contract with Casanova and fled. Zuri and Issa apparently have some kind of irregular contract that gives Casanova some leverage over Zuri, and kind of this is when the focus shifts from Jinsen to Zuri a lot. I mean, their whole worry this whole time has been like, solving all this before they could take Zuri, because they knew it could be a liability and they're just forget about Jinsen if it starts taking too long. But I don't know. Then Zuri left a note that I thought was probably going to be full of clues. Yeah, that didn't amount to much, huh? Now, this is where it starts shifting into the second part. Issa wants Vermis to take both of them to the realm of contractors. It exists between realms, apparently, so time is different. So Vermis can select when to arrive. That's actually kind of a cool concept, thinking about it, and it's like, yeah, I guess you could. So there's some wiggle room. So Issa tells everyone the plan. Rao can't go. Elsie thinks Issa won't come back, or it didn't matter. It would matter a lot more if there was a whole book to this whole realm thing, but no, it's just a few chapters. And then Vermis and Jinsen spar and talk. I don't know, it's just little bits. But you also think, if I was to go into too much detail about this, it'll take longer for me to talk about it than to actually just read the book. And that might be a kind of sting at this, but I don't know. So, Vermis and Issa go to the contractor realm and talk about slavery, the overseers, soul currency. We get some details on how this realm works. We just don't really get details on how anything looks. And I kind of remember that in the beginning. We kind of get a tone and a vibe of the realm, which is something, but just no picture of it. And they can't look up for some reason. Well, it's like, we can't look up. Eventually someone's going to look up, but no one really looks up. And then there is one character that at least got a little more description than we normally get, but then I don't think character pops up again. I just made a note saying that's what happens. Then they run into LC Prime. I forgot about this, actually. Is this going to matter any later? I don't know. The LC thing is confusing. Like, up until this point, it is kind of mentioned like there's other ramps. This is when we fully dive into it. And it's just really like, oh, here's all the other versions of people you know. And it's like, it was kind of brought up. I don't think it was, unless I missed something. And I may have missed something in the first volume at the end or something. But it's just confusing. Because it's just kind of dumped on us, I feel like. Or it wasn't. I don't know why it just threw me off so much. But I get it now. By the end, you kind of do get used to it. So, there's a stupid thing. This is one. Okay, I told you in the beginning, there's 2 parts where the chapters open up in weird ways that makes no sense as a book. Maybe as individual chapters, when you're getting them weekly, whatever. This is very like, I don't know, Law and Order, or like, actually at this point it's very YouTube video, like, oh, here's a clip of something that's happening in the video, now we're going to jump back. I hate that so much. But yeah, there's a stupid thing where it jumps to the middle of a trial and then vaguely goes back to the beginning, but there was no need to do that. What happens in that is kind of catchy, like it'll get your attention, I guess, but it really did not matter at all. I know it's just to mimic those shows, but it really just did not matter. It kind of just was like, why are you doing this? And then we finally see that the overseer is Maria, Elsie's parent. It's like, oh, cool. If maybe that would matter more if we really got any sense of who Maria was in the first book or second book or something. Maria's kids kind of mentioned a lot, but it just doesn't matter. Then we also introduced to Zuri's sibling, Duncan of Clan. Wait for it. I don't know. Wow, this whole time. Yeah, burst in saying Zuri is not a actual contractor. But, and we actually do get a description of Duncan and the bird prosecutor, so we have that at least. Now, moving on to a little bit of combat. We're going to have a trial by combat for Zuri. Because since Zuri's not actually a contractor, the irregular contract, Issa will act as Zuri's champion versus Duncan's champion, who is named Gunner, but both ghouls, and Issa easily wins. To everyone's surprise, especially Issa's, starts feeling really bad about almost killing Gunner. But, then we learn more about how there's also Issa and Zuri's around, kind of like a distant cousin. And this is where it gets weird again. It's like, why though? But okay, so is that why Zuri made this contract with Issa? Because there's like this familiar bond through Rams. It's just, we don't know about it. We don't learn anything else about it in this volume. But it does make you like, oh, is that why all this happened in the first place? It's like, okay, it kind of makes the whole like, oh. It makes the contractors seem less cool, I guess. When you're just like, oh, these are just different people or different creatures or whatever. And maybe that's also why Zuri isn't an actual contractor, because Zuri is probably just another person. Which also means if there's a whole realm of Issa, there might be another Zuri on Earth. That's not something I thought about until just this moment. Interesting. And maybe it was brought up at some point. I missed it. I don't know. So, Issa and I guess Rumors suddenly are back in Earth already. It was that quick. It was over. And the transition sucked. I'm not going sure. Transition sucked, dude. To make it less choppy, I guess. And it happens again later. It's just, oh, okay, we're doing this now, kind of deal. But Issa is upset, scared about almost killing Gunnar. I already talked about that. And then, surprise! Human Casanova is alive and wants revenge. Enough that Enforcer Casanova comes. And this is where I thought it should have ended. Like, if I was going to write a book, I would just flesh out the first part, maybe the second part. And it's like, oh, you kind of got one over on Casanova, but not really. But this part where we find out Human Casanova is alive, that would have made a great epilogue. But no, you gotta cram more into this short book for some reason. And let me just be clear, it's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. It's not like anything substantial really happens. It's okay. So a month passes. Issa and Max are aware of the Casanovas. We see a little into the Casanovas together. We just learn more kind of about soul energy, needing to move between realms, how precious it is. And then this is the main time any other character besides Issa gets any actual attention. And it is kind of cool on Elsie's part because some of Casanova's goons break into Elsie's house. Elsie calls around and is like, hey, come help. But I'll stall or whatever. And then there's like some struggle, Elsie getting prepared for some combat. It's kind of cool. This is probably one of the best chapters in the book just because we get more character development kind of from Elsie, a little bit from Rao, I guess. But yeah, Elsie and then starts fighting them off. Rao shows up to finish them all off. And it's pretty cool. And then this is kind of where it gets a little dark, where Rome and Vermis start interrogating one of the goons. They have two. The others were knocked out and left at Elsie's place so the police can deal with them and believe Elsie, I guess. A lot of this starts to make less sense too. The more we learn, the less it makes sense. Because it seems like all these characters are just too familiar with each other already. Like Rao's side, Rao, Elsie, Issa just seem too familiar with Casanova and vice versa. It's like, wasn't this just a random meeting / mugging? Is Volume 1 stuff again, but was there more to it than that? It seemed like a random just beat them up. Why do they seem to know each other like they've been lifelong rivals this whole time and you just now found out this person you've had beef with for so long is back and now you gotta deal with it again? But no, it was just random one-time occurrence, but that's just not what it seems like. I don't know why they seem to know so much about each other. They just act like they're so familiar with each other. So, heading towards the end, into this final confrontation, we have Max's group of 8 people plus Zuri and Issa are going to go confront the Casanovas. But then when they get there, there's just a whole bunch of people there. And I think it was Casimir is able to just use willpower to get most of them to make a pass. So Issa and Zuri can just walk right through. While Max's group is going to handle everyone outside, those two go inside to fight the Casanovas. But instead of letting Issa go ghoul and fight again, Zuri sucks the blood from Issa instead of giving Issa blood in order to fight Casanova himself. And pretty easy fight. It goes quick. It's a pretty cool moment for Zuri. But it's also kind of a lackluster resolution. I don't think we actually know what happens to human Casanova. I think it's kind of mentioned like, oh, you're just hiding. And then I'm pretty sure it was forgotten about. But then the Maria and Major pop up when the fight is over with. Rose, Enforcer, now going to be ex-Enforcer, Casanova got donutted. The fight's over. And this is the other part that made no sense, is the last chapter, or the last paragraph of this chapter, is repeated again in the beginning of the next chapter, which makes no sense when you compile it as a book. Re-edit this. Stop being lazy. If you're not going to take the time to flesh anything else, at least take the time to make a book feel like a book. We get to see a little more of the detective side or the mental capacity of Zuri, I guess. I don't know how you want to put it. Because Maria starts questioning Zuri. He's like, oh, why do you think Casanova or Rose Anderson is going to be in so much trouble? And Zuri explains. And it's like, oh, that's a good way for us to also learn about it. Kind of awkward way to do it. And it was because Casanova was also stealing and stockpiling souls. And it's like, that's the excuse at least. So now Casanova's not going to be a forcer anymore. And then that's kind of how that confrontation ends. Just taken away. Also, Megar's in trouble too. Was there to help. Takes Casanova away, but it's like, oh, I know you were part of this, so you're going to be in trouble too. We're going to talk about that later though. And that's it. That's how the confrontation ends. It's lackluster. It's just like, I didn't need a big, long, dragged out fight. It would have been cool though if it was at least more to it. It's like this whole book pretty much revolved around Casanova when it wasn't revolving around Issa just powering up. And it's just kind of lackluster. And it's kind of like the ending to Diamonds Unbreakable. It's like, I get it. Not everything, in reality, not everything's going to be this phenomenal ultimate showdown to end. But like, it's still just not that satisfying, you know? So, fight's over with. They come out, and this is another part where it's like, oh, you could have taken some time to see Max's group fighting. It would have been so cool. No, they come out and be like, oh, there's still about half of them left, but the fight's going to be over. That's it. Oh, we don't get any action from... Okay, cool. I guess. No, not cool. I'm kidding. No, that sucked, too. You telling me there's this whole other thing happening, and we just can't give a little bit of attention to it? Because Max seems to be coming in as a character. There's potential there for it. Stop ignoring it. Use it. Okay. So, we're not done yet, though. There's still a little bit more crammed into this. This is, since Maria's showing up, this has all been last chapter. It's really just crammed in a lot to the ending. They go home, Zuri and Issa, to see Isabella, something like that, who was the Iono's family had made, coming to visit to invite Issa and, by extension, Zuri to the estate, the family estate, or family realm, or whatever it is, which they're going to do. And then it ends, one more, with going back to Overseer Maria, just kind of fascinated with experiments and learning from experiences, success or failures. And then that's where it ends. Yep. Okay, so let me be clear. I know that was me kind of just shitting on it a lot. There's a lot of good things that can happen with this. It's a good idea. There's a lot of potential. It's just the time isn't being taken to put all that goodness to use. It's not reaching its full potential or whatever. And there's just so much being left out that could be there. And if anything, if you kept it like this and just re-edited it to feel like a more cohesive book instead of just individual chapters you just collected together. Because even with manga, they're edited a little bit when they go into these volumes together. It doesn't have to be just so choppy. It doesn't have to be so bare bones. I know you have a story. It seems like you have a plan, but it seems like you're also just... It's a one-take kind of thing. Here's a chapter. Okay, let's move. Here's a chapter. Let's move on. No, like, well, how's all this going to actually fit together? So, keep writing. Write more. Don't stop. There's no negativity to make you stop. It's critiquing to, I want more. And to me, that's a compliment. To give me more. But also, I say this every time. I'm a greedy reader. I always want more. So, maybe that can't be satiated. But I guess next time in the next volume, because I'm assuming there's going to be more, I'm fine with there being more. Another volume. More volumes. That's fine. I'm assuming it's going to mainly focus on them going to their own estate in another realm. Probably start off figuring out how to get there, making their plans, what they're going to do there, saying their goodbyes. So maybe friends will be able to come. I mean, Rumors has routes to take. If that's going to work out, maybe. Or maybe it won't be, it'll be just Zuri and Issa going. There'll be some family drama. There's still Duncan and all that. Maybe it won't take long at all, and they'll come back to some other kind of problem. Who knows? But a mostly full volume in a whole nother round would be pretty cool. Because I thought that was good. But of course, like I said, you went against my expectations before. That's okay. That's welcomed. But make it make sense. And flesh it out. Here is the thing I really hope doesn't happen, is especially in the end. They talk a lot about how to become a full ghoul, how to become a vampire. I don't want this to go down the vampire route. I don't want this to just be vampires. You had something going with contractors being like almost these otherworldly beings, even though it feels less so now. And you have something going with other people or different versions of people from other realms. It's like, okay, kind of have that. Don't focus too much on the vampire stuff. So I'm really worried that's going to start happening, because it always happens. It goes this way and everything. I want that to go against expectations. Anytime there's vampires involved, it almost always the main character turns into a vampire or a ghoul too. And it's like Rosario Vampire happens there too. It's kind of a very similar story, really, when you think about it like that. But yeah, and the main reason, it'll change the vibe. The vibe of this story is kind of what I'm liking the most from it. The first volume I remember, I think I liked the pacing. This volume I didn't like the pacing of, but the vibe of it, I'm okay with it. I just want it fleshed out more. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I really need to say about this volume of ContRact. Yeah, there's not really much else I need to add. Not much else I really can add. So, that is going to be it for ContRact Volume 2 by Brandon Nowakowski. I do like the bits I can. It's not a bad book, like I said. There's plenty for me to nitpick, though, because there's potential for it to be more than, what we're getting. But, I'm hoping for the best. And, I don't know, I guess I'm just curious to hear what everyone else thinks about it. Let me know what you think. Comments, social media, email, all that stuff will be in links in the description. Easy to find. But yeah, that's all I have to say about this. Thank you to anyone who watches. Thank you especially to my Patreon and Ko-fi members. Julio Vasquez. If you also want to help support me, go ahead and do it. You get notes of videos I make like this. You get to see all my little notes about this. You get shout outs, of course. You get stories I write when I want to share them. All kinds of little things. But that's going to be it for me. I've been your Otakutainment, the AC Stories. Until next time, bye.